welcome to the 10 o'clock service. And, oh wait, no, it's 11 o'clock. What time is it? What day? Who am I? What? Yeah, let's take a moment. We'll get centered here. Whew, and you took one of my pages, my love. Yeah, thanks.
Let's see how you do.
Da 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 da. Yay, going off-roading. All right. No, you're good. We're very flexible here. We just roll with adapt and overcome. It's all good. All right. In fact, this morning, I'm going to convince you that 4 plus 2 equals 1. It seems impossible, right? But these are especially impossible times right now. And things feel, at least for me, very confusing, and many of us, myself included, are searching for some kind of clarity, direction, something that makes sense, something that adds up. And so I've been thinking lately about how can I gain clarity, and maybe I can gain that by exploring different ways of knowing something, so that way I can have more to go on. So that reading of Spirit through Reverend Vicky was just so perfect. I could not have chosen a better thing. I love that kind of synchronicity. And so I was trying to think about, how do I know something? How do I gain clarity? And it reminded me of a class I took in ministerial school, which isn't all too far ago. So I had a class called Paradigms of Consciousness. Ooh, yes, it was as difficult as it sounds. And mostly because the professor was a tough customer, that one. And his name was Dr. Christian De Quincey. And he wrote a really interesting book. So I do have a few takeaways from that class. And his book was called Radical Knowing. And the subtitle is Understanding Consciousness Through Relationship. It was really a fascinating class, and he spoke a lot about developing your 4 gifts of knowing, and he framed those 4 gifts of knowing as a way to improve relationships. But that didn't resonate with me. What really stuck with me is that if I could remember these 4 ways of knowing, then I would understand more of how I'm seeing the world. Hence the word paradigms of consciousness, how we tend to see the world. Or from that reading today, Ernest Holmes talking about different ways of knowing, the differentiation of spirit. And it also helps me to consider what inlets of knowledge am I allowing versus what I might be blocking, or what might even just be hidden to me. Like, I don't even know that it's there. I'm completely unaware. So when I'm stuck or unclear, I can question, is there another way that I might know more here? So these 4 ways of knowing from Dr. De Quincey, he says there's the philosopher's gift of reason. I could know it in my mind. I could run thought experiments. I can explore stuff in my mind. There's the scientist's gift of the senses. And you've maybe heard scientists say this: if I can see it, smell it, taste it, touch it, hear it, it is real. I can explore it through methodology, and I can know it through my body, my 5 senses. He also spoke about he calls it the shaman's gift of knowing through feeling, like knowing through the heart. Okay? And then he also spoke about the mystic's gift of being in sacred silence and having a direct spiritual experience to know something in my soul. Wow. All different ways of knowing. And I'm sure there's more than that, but just those 4 are pretty amazing. So take a moment to think about when you were growing up. Was one of those ways maybe your natural way, or like a way that you really connected with when you were little? Was it the head? Was it the body? Was it the heart? Was it the soul? And here's an interesting next question. What was valued or encouraged for you when you were a kid? Like, what did your parents value or the adults in your life? What did they, say, oh, yeah, what did they validate as real, a real way of knowing to them? Because those don't always match. So sometimes there's a really interesting rub that happens there. And I know for me personally, with all due humility, I think I started out as a pretty mystical little kid. I really felt like I had a direct connection to God. We had conversations all the time. And I was definitely in that zone. But compared to other little kids or other people, I was like, that wasn't really what I was seeing in other people, and that wasn't necessarily accepted. And so that kind of got put to the back burner. And I think I also was a pretty intuitive little kid because I have some pretty distinct memories of, sitting up in the middle of the night knowing that my grandmother had died, and then the phone rang to tell us that my grandmother had passed. But yeah, those kind of things weren't really allowed or accepted, and what was valued was the book learning and education, and that's part of why I became a teacher. But I loved learning because I loved knowing. Like, learning was so exciting. Oh my God, kindergarten, best thing ever. And I had great experiences in school. And I know not everyone has had good experiences in school, but I did. And it was exciting, and my mind was on fire, and I was learning and growing, and it was just amazing, like 90% of it completely awesome, which is why I'm really a lifelong learner. I love learning and growing. And I feel like people who are attracted to New Thought or Science of Mind tend to be the lifelong learners, because I don't know if you could even be here if you weren't interested in learning. So I'm a little bit preaching to the choir here. But what's been interesting about being in Science of Mind or New Thought now is that I've been opening up to so many more ways of learning, or reconnecting with other parts of my whole that have been either hidden or denied for so long, and just reconnecting to those channels. Or if you think of like radio stations, they're all still there, whether you're listening to it or not. So it's been fascinating to reconnect or to open up to that. So maybe take a moment just to think of your evolution of consciousness or your ways of knowing. Has it shifted in your life experience, or deepened perhaps in your experience of being at Wellspring or other spiritual communities? Maybe it's evolved. So here's an interesting suggestion, and this is why I'm bringing it up. Maybe if you're feeling stuck right now in some arena in your life, or, I could really use clarity in this area, maybe we could be like an artist when they're stuck and they say, you know what, I'm going to try a new medium. Instead of colored pencils, I'm going to do watercolors. And let's just see what happens. Or I'm going to draw this picture upside down. And then it's a totally different experience. Or when I was teaching high school English and we were trying to look for spelling, instead of reading the paper top to bottom, left to right, we actually would read the paper from right to left, bottom to top, because it shuts off the neuro function of autocorrect. Yeah, isn't that amazing? So your brain sees each word as an individual entity outside of context. It's a fun trick. So our brains can do amazing things when we get outside of our comfort zones. And that's actually part of what you may be seeing in the Joe Dispenza videos too, that when we're on autopilot, then we just keep recreating the same thing over and over and over and over. And we're like, why do I keep getting that thing? Well, because I keep doing the same thing, which we all know is the definition of insanity. So maybe we could consider which one of these ways of knowing is maybe not my strong suit. And then I might connect with something I didn't even know I knew. That's exciting stuff. That's the gold mine waiting to happen, because we do have access to the infinite warehouse of possibilities and all knowledge. So we're going to take out the metaphysical workbench. You know, I love my little thought experiments. So we're going to, okay, here's our metaphysical workbench. And we're going to think, do you have just one area where you'd like some clarity? Or you'd like a little knowledge? So let's pull it out. We're going to put it on the workbench. And before we put it in the Petri dish, let's pause. We want to think, which Petri dish do we want to put it in? Okay, so I've got the thing I want to consider. And which way of knowing would maybe be not my strong suit or something I don't typically go to? Let's pick that one to put it in and shake it up and see what happens. So do you want to know more about it from your mind or reason? Or do you want to know more about it through your senses and having a visceral experience, like something in your body that might give you knowledge? Or do you want to know more about it through feelings and what comes forth through your heart? Or do you want to know more about it if you were to drop into some sacred space, that little place in your soul where the divine whispers to you in the stillness? Okay, so think which Petri dish you want to pick. Okay, and we're going to put the thing in there. We're just going to take a moment to just breathe into it and just see if anything comes forth in our mind, our body, our heart, or our soul, just to see. And maybe that's just a glimmer of a thought or just the beginning of a knowing. And at home, you could really, take some time to explore that even further. And here's another suggestion. Maybe you'd like to see it through all 4 lenses, just to see. It reminds me of when I was growing up and we had a Christmas tree wheel. Did you ever have that where it's the 4 colors? It's a quarter, like it's blue, it's green, it's yellow, it's red, and then the wheel spins, and then you get to see your Christmas tree. Oh, it's all yellow now, and it's all blue, and it's really pretty if you ever see one of those. It's kind of old-timey, and I haven't been able to find one since, but it'd be neat to think, like, if I were to run this thing through this lens, what would it look like? And what through this lens, what might it look like? So it could be interesting to sit with all 4 ways of knowing and see what happens. But here's the next question in our thought experiment. Okay, so let's say that I know something now, like, oh, I've had an insight. Okay, that's important. I've got this thought. But now, where does this thought go? What do I do with this knowledge? Well, we can use the 2 wings of science of mind to give it flight. So what do you think the 2 wings of science of mind would be? What comes to mind if you're like, 2 wings of science of mind? Does anything come to mind? This is where I have a picture to help. Here's our visual to help. Any thoughts? 2 wings? Science of mind? Ooh, you got one. One of them's love. What's the other one? Okay, we're going to see the drum roll. Here's the picture coming up. Yay! And the law. This was actually from a class that I taught, many moons ago, and I used to jokingly label the coffee pots instead of caffeinated or uncaffeinated. It was leaded and unleaded, and then it just kind of evolved into, it's leaded, you got the law, and it's unleaded, you got the love. So thank you for sharing the humorous portion of our days, that little picture. So law and the love. And Ernest Holmes, who is the founder of religious science and did write the book, The Science of Mind, which is just a great handbook for living, right away in chapter 1, he just comes right out of the gates and tells us about love and law. And he says, the great love of the universe must be one with the great law of its own being. And we approach the love through the law. This then is the teaching, love and law. As the love of God is perfect, so the law of God is also perfect. We must understand both. And then in chapter 2, he's like, well, we need to talk about this again. So he says, as we gain the broader viewpoint, we shall see that life must contain two fundamental characteristics. We shall see that there is an infinite spirit operating through an infinite and immutable law. In this, cosmos, capital C, not chaos, finds an eternal existence in reality. Love points the way, and law makes it possible. So, once I know something, however I come to know it, then I'm ready to run it through the gauntlet of the law, to make manifest, to invoke, to co-create with the Great Spirit into reality the thing I know to be true. And I always need to run that co-creation through the love to balance that creation with the ultimate integrity. To me, love is that ultimate. I can create till the cows come home. I am a great manifester. I can make stuff happen. Let me tell you, an international adoption on a teacher's salary made it happen with other people's money because I can do that. We all can do that. But to do that with love is what makes it supercharged or powerful or of integrity. So we've got the law and we've got the love. These are my two wings. I can create with the law while being rooted in love. And Ernest Holmes certainly wrote, if you've read him, he wrote a lot more about the law than he did about love. And yes, he was adamant these two concepts are the pillars supporting the universe. But he also admitted later in his life, especially as he grew more mystical in his expression, if you see recordings of him later in life, he was way more there than here, if you know what I mean. He admitted that he wished he would have written more about the love because that's really where it was at, you know? So, as they say, the longest journey is from the head to the heart. And certainly since I've been in Science of Mind, thank you all, I have been making that journey. And I'm so grateful because I find myself so much more gentle and my rough edges are rounded and there's so much more compassion and empathy. And I have more acceptance of how human beings actually are, not how I want them to be. Spock or Data in me from Star Trek is like, what? What is this illogical being in front of me? I don't get it. I cannot compute. And then I'm like, oh, sorry. Human beings are not logical. They're emotional. And then also to give myself permission, getting honest with myself that I am not logical, that I am an emotional being, and we are all doing the best we can with this amazing experience we call life. And that way I am using the law or the logic, but I'm seeing through the eyes of love for myself and for others. And that has an epic return on investment. To be able to fly with both wings, not just to limp through with one. So how about you? Are you more of a law, logic, mind kind of person? Like, is that how you entered Science of Mind? Or are you more the heart, the love? Is that how you entered Science of Mind? They say there's two ways that you tend to come into Science of Mind. One way attracts you typically more than the other. So let me give you a similar suggestion to what I suggested earlier. Which wing is a little weaker for you? Maybe that's the one to use a little more of in this situation where you feel a little stuck or a little struggling. So could we apply that to this situation? In fact, here's an interesting analogy. When our oldest child, Skylar, was little, I don't know, was it kindergarten, first grade, whenever they do the eye test at school, they realized that Skylar was almost blind in one eye. Who knew? So we went to the pediatric ophthalmologist and they said, you know what? Skylar's eye had rolled in just a tiny little bit, just enough to shut off the neurofunction. Yeah, it was amazing. And he said, it's not that the eye can't see, it's that the eye doesn't know it is supposed to. And so the way we fixed it is that we patched Skylar's good eye. Oh, and they had awesome patches with like music notes and flamingos and all. It was amazing. So we had these cool patches that Skylar would wear for X amount of hours each day. And so the good eye was closed. And then the other eye would kind of wake up and go, oh, I guess I'm supposed to be looking right now. And then it would connect the neurofunction. It was amazing. So after this experience, we actually got Skylar's eyes to about 20/60, which was amazing from almost blind to that. Okay, transfer that concept. How are your wings? Is one almost lame? You know, is it almost blind? Like, come on, let's use the other wing. Let's try to get it up so you've got both wings flying. So just and imagine that also with the ways of knowing. Which one is the weak suit? Wouldn't that be amazing to lift that up? Like, imagine what would happen with all 4 ways of knowing and flying with both wings just high and strong. So those 4 ways of knowing run through the 2 fundamental characteristics of the universe. That does add up to a really powerful way to live in the oneness of the all that is. So wait, does that mean 4 + 2 = 1? I think it does. So you're just going to have fun with that all week long. All right. So please, please, please play with those ways of knowing and how to manifest what you come to know through the law and the love. Because that sweet spot, that really balanced, strong, amazing place is where you can enjoy the bounty of both clarity and creation. Have fun. Namaste. Good luck. Enjoy. All right, let's go to prayer. Oh, in this delightful space of joy with these beautiful people, it is so easy to recognize that presence of the one loving source, of the all that is, that one heart, one mind, one law through which the entire universe operates. That this divine essence is expressing in all of life as we know it and even beyond what we can understand. And knowing that absolutely everything and everyone, every place, every time, everything is an expression of the divine. I know that each person has access to the infinite warehouse of possibilities and information and outcomes and all the qualities of the divine. That each person has access to all the gifts of knowing, to the gift of reason, to the gift of senses, to the gift of feeling, and to the gift of God. That knowing or clarity is absolutely possible and that each person is divinely guided and blessed. And I know that each person is fully empowered to consciously create his, her, or their experience through the law, guided by love. That this is the conscious evolution that is taking place right here and now in our lives. And as we share this sacred journey together, we can root each other on, help each other, support each other, and show up as love for each other and know the truth for each other even when we struggle to know it for ourselves. This is the bounty of this teaching faith philosophy and way of life. This is the great bounty of our lives and how this universe is absolutely stacked in our favor. We cannot choose wrong. We cannot step amiss. Everything is in divine right order, regardless of seeming appearance. And so I know that each person is blessed this week with clarity and with creation, that each person is empowered in their life. So with heartfelt gratitude for sharing this journey together and for this beloved community of Wellspring, and for all the bounty that comes out of this sacred time together, I know that we are blessed. And I know that our week yet to come is blessed. And I know that all the people who cross our paths are blessed because of who and what we are. So with heartfelt gratitude, I let this prayer go into the law, guided by love, knowing that all is well. And so it is.